Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day because it is harvesting season. And if you've ever wanted to grow onions or you grow onions, today is the day. It's, these onions have been in the ground for quite a while. So we're going to harvest them and then we're going to look at the outcome and kind of see what we could have done better and what we're going to change for next year. Before I get digging into this garden bed, I do want to show you the signs that it is time to harvest, and you can see they're laying on the ground. They're not going to grow anymore. These have been in the ground for 5 months now. So, for the most part, they're ready. There's a couple in there that aren't, but we're just going to go ahead and take them all out because we need to dry them and get them ready. And our garlics that are in the back row, they're still hanging on, but they're probably going to be just a week apart. This is one of the reasons why I plant them together. One of the few reasons, I don't want to say many, but it's in my experience that when the onions are ready, it's right afterwards the garlics are ready. So we can go ahead and get this bed empty and get it primed for the next planting. But let's see how we did this year. Let's do this. Let's get this out of the way. I know that's in your way. And so I'm not going to do this all on camera, but we're going to use the our 5-minute rule, if you remember from a previous video. And these are super easy to pull up. And we're just going to, look at that. That's a good onion. Just going to pull them up and then we're just going to leave them in the ground. So we planted 96 onions in here. So we'll see what we get. We had some ups and downs. But once I get these pulled, we're going to analyze it and then just kind of see what we can do different, what worked and what didn't work, and then make a plan for next year. Just like that, 5 months of work is done. So it looks like a hot mess here, but I mean, we've got some pretty good onions in there. We've got some okay onions, and we've got some not so good onions. Now that being said, this guy right here, that's a pretty good little onion. It's nothing to write home about, but these are Valdelia style onions, Granics. So they're pretty flat when they grow. They can be upwards of a pound each. And I've said many times, you go to the store, they're about $1 an onion. They're about $1 for that size. The little ones, you wouldn't even find those at the store. But I'm okay with it. I mean, I grew the onion. What can I say? It's mine. This is great, though. I'm really happy with this. I'm going to show you why, though. Last year, we grew these in the bed behind it, but we had it flipped. So the garlic was in the front, the onions were in the back, and basically the garlic shaded out the onions. So we learned our lesson last year. We analyzed it. And we rectified the situation, so we rotated it around. Seems to really do the job well. We look in here, and last year I had a lot of onions this size, but I'm getting a lot like this time. Now these are short day onions, so they grow until the amount of sunlight tells them when to basically bulb and finish up. So that being said, the first thing I look at is I'm going to look at this and say, I planted them roughly in around January, and I know that the amount of green tops, the bigger the green top, the bigger the onion is. If I want green tops, and guess what? I need to plant earlier. So I think this year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant 3 months earlier. Am I saying it right? Yeah. October to November time. We're going to try and get our onions in the ground and get them going so that they can go through the winter and see if that will improve it at all. I just want to just get on the track. I mean, to be totally honest, this harvest right here makes me really happy. It's not perfect, but I think I definitely, first of all, I came ahead on my investment on it, no problem. I'll probably be eating way more onions than I would normally. And so out of the 96 onions we got here, I would say 90% of them are of an edible size. Not the perfect size, but an edible size, meaning you wouldn't just toss them. Like, for instance, this right here, nobody cares about that onion. That onion doesn't even matter. So actually what I'm going to do is use this raccoon repellent. But otherwise, like everything else is sliceable. You know what I'm saying? And for here, like we can't grow your regular onions, like your long day onions. We have to do a short or intermediate day. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start them earlier and get them to ground. That's the first thing I'm gonna do, which means they're gonna get more time to get fed and more time to sit in the garden, which is okay, because next year we're gonna move them. Actually, when I say next year, I mean this year. We're gonna move them one bed over. So when those sweet potatoes come out in September, we will already have had our onions started and growing, which also means we should not have to have our onions started in the house. We can just start them outside, so that'll be great. Now the next problem I see, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it because of the way I plant, but I'll show you. It's the amount of weeds that grow in it. It's really important to keep the weeds out of the bed, and I did really good, but until they start really getting bigger, and there just comes a point where I just can't keep up with it. So hopefully by starting earlier in the year, we can get them to a bigger size before the onions really start to grow, or before the weeds start to grow, and then the onions will actually shade it out, which it seems it did a bit better this year, but there is a lot in here, and it really just got bad in the past couple weeks. I mean, it kind of, you know, the onions were getting big and they were starting to form up, and you really can't get in there when they're packed in so tightly. So this year we'll try and do a little bit better there, but you know, otherwise I don't think it really harmed overall, because in the wintertime they're not going to grow too much, and this is a good bed to do it in, because once these sweet potatoes take hold, they will just block all the weeds out. So we'll keep weeding it right now, but there won't be a whole lot of weeds in there for when we go to plant our onions. Now, we didn't have any disease issues, no pest pressure, nothing like that. I mean, you can see, like on this onion here, see if I can get in the light better. You can see the spotting on the stalks. That's just that it's time to harvest it. So nothing crazy is going on, no issues. It's just doing its natural life cycle. So knowing that will help as well. Now, as far as these onions go, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave them sitting out here. We've got about 3 days of really nice warm weather, and I'm gonna let them sit out here and dry in the sun, just to kind of toughen them up. And then we're supposed to get rain in about 3 days. So then what I'll do is I'll take them, I'll lay them out in my garage on some cardboard for another, you know, 6-7 days, something like that, 10 days, and just let them naturally dry and let everything die off on it, and then I'll just cut the stalks and we'll store them. Now, these aren't very good storing onions. They don't store for a long time. They're not like your, I don't even know what the other onions are called because I don't grow them, but you know, your typical onion you buy in bags at the grocery store. These don't have a long shelf life, so we're gonna have to eat them fairly quickly, but we'll easily get through the summer on these onions. So, I mean, it's not a big deal. And there's a plethora of ways. I mean, they're sweet onions, so they're not as pungent, but we still eat them the same. We'll put them in our food. We'll do other things with them too. My favorite way to eat them is I like to put them on the grill, wrap them in tin foil, just put a little pat of butter on them, and then when it's done, nice and soft, you just pull them up and eat them. It's great. And the biggest one, I always make onion rings. I eat onion rings once a year. And so I'll take the biggest one and make onion rings off of it. And that'll be what we do with that. So otherwise, I mean, it's a really good time. And you can see now, this is important. In my garden, and we're just gonna focus on the main part of the garden, I've got 1 bed now, 2, 3 beds that are basically empty at this time of year. This one is gonna be harvested next. We're gonna do that on video, because I'm also curious. If you've seen the other potato video, you know that things are changing. We want to know how this one did compared to that one based on the growth. If you don't know about that video, I'll link it at the end. You can check it out, because it is going to kind of set up the stage for this next, when we get around to it, which should be sooner than later. I'm trying to say about the beds being empty this time of year is it's not a huge deal. Like, you don't have to have them filled at all times and think, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. You're absolutely not running out of time. You know, we harvested this, we've planted it, and you can see the corn's coming up, it's planted. And you know, before long, it'll be filled up. You won't even know the difference. Same here. You know, this one too. Now we're gonna put, after this one's harvested, I've got popcorn seeds coming. We're gonna plant popcorn in here and give that a shot. And I know you may be thinking, well, it's gonna cross-pollinate with that one. Well, because of the delay in time, I'm thinking we may be able to kind of finagle around that a little bit, but we're just gonna take our chance. I don't even care, really. You know, we just wanna grow some popcorn and see how it works, you know what I mean? Last year, and if you live in a southern area, a really good thing to do after your short day onions come out is you can plant a second round of tomatoes. I'm not gonna do that this year in this bed. I may put a second round of tomatoes in somewhere else, but that's what I do. And we'll take cuttings and stuff like that. I'll do that on a video soon. It's about time for me to take some cuttings, but we're getting everything set up and it's good to go. So it's awesome, man. We have our ultimate goal and we are meeting that goal now. We're just continuing to work through it. And we'll do an update video on that as well coming up about how we're meeting our goal and if we feel like we're getting into it. So, you know, if you're growing onions, I want to know how your onions are doing and how you're spacing them and stuff like that, because onions seem to be very tricky for people. And I know somebody called me the other day, 1 week ago, and said, hey, I need some onion plants. And I said, man, I'm harvesting my onions. It's too late. So onions are very tricky to kind of lock in, but once you get them, man, I think they're a lot of fun to grow. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking forward to some onion rings.